Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another wrap-up video for the month of May 2022 today. So wrap-up videos are basically when I talk about all the stuff that I read or watched during the month, and we're going to start with what I watched and then what I read, and what I read is going to be divided into comic books and non-comic books, and as in like comic books and manga basically. And I didn't really read any novels this month except for one of them. So it's fine. So yeah, let's just jump into it. So, this month was pretty good in terms of watching stuff. I watched the new Nicolas Cage movie, the, Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I thought it was pretty fun. I actually really did enjoy it. It wasn't as good as I thought it would be, but it was funny and the story was good enough. And so I did have a good time watching it. Also watched it like right after finals, or like right before finals happened. So it was a nice kind of like unwind kind of bit for me. So I really ended up liking it quite a bit. I do think I talked about it more in my check-in video. So if you guys want a more in-depth kind of look into it, feel free to watch that video. But the Nicolas Cage movie was pretty fun. Then I watched Moon Knight again. I had watched it when it first released, then I watched it a second time, and then I watched it here a third time with my parents. I actually just finished it a few days ago with my parents. However, I had already done a review for it, so feel free to watch that. But I think Moon Knight was good. The story was cool. The way that they structured it was really enjoyable as well. I thought it was a useful way of kind of doing the back and forth like flashback sequence kind of thing without making it a flashback sequence, while also making the origin story style story a bit easier to deal with. So I liked that a lot. I also thought the psychological aspect was good, and what's his name? Oscar Isaac did a really great job with the acting. He was really good at making sure that you believe each version of the character is different from the other, and I really liked it. I think he did a great job. Definitely want to see more of him going forward. So yeah, then I watched Northman. This one was a really good movie. It was a lot different, a lot more different from what I expected. It is still generally the same traditional like Viking type story. Like if you've ever seen Vikings or The Last Kingdom or Barbarians or any of these types of stories, you kind of know what I'm talking about. There's a young man. He swears to have revenge on someone because they did something to him and his family, and so now he's on this journey to do so, and he eventually comes back and he has to kind of deal with the consequences of it as he lives his life. And it's actually pretty interesting. I think it was great. There was a few moments in it that I thought were really weird, that didn't really feel like they fit into the story, but it was still good. Just about everything about the story was awesome, and the final fight scene of the movie was awesome. I loved it a lot. However, it did remind me a lot about Star Wars, and I think that's really cool. So I liked The Northman quite a lot. I actually think it's a really good movie. Then I watched Doctor Strange 2, which I think was also really good, the Multiverse of Madness. I really enjoyed it. However, I was confused about the beginning of the movie because I didn't know that was like... So there's a bunch of Doctor Stranges that show up in the movie, right? The first Doctor Strange is not the Doctor Strange that we know from the first movie. The second one is. And the second one, I was not sure that was the Doctor Strange we know from the first movie, because the way his powers worked felt different. Like, he did a lot of these, like, summoning kind of type things. And I think that's accurate to the comic books, but it's not really accurate to how Kamar-Taj magic has worked so far in the MCU. And so I was confused at the beginning until, you know, kind of the movie moves forward. And then I was like, oh, okay, I know who this is now. So I didn't find that part of the story to make sense, but everything else was good. And I think they did a good job with the movie. I quite liked it, actually. I thought it was really good. So, yeah, there's not much more to say about that one. Then I watched Top Gun. The first one, I watched it at my house. I watched it on Netflix. It was the first time watching it. I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I seen someone call it a sports movie, and I guess it kind of is. It's mostly a competition between these fighter pilots. But I think the action sequences were really good for their time period. However, they do feel a bit kind of old by our standards now. However, I think that the story is actually quite good. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. And I liked it a lot, actually. There was a few things I didn't love, like the weird romance thing between Maverick and Charlie. Didn't really make too much sense to me at first. And at the end, they made sense, but like, I don't know. I didn't really love that aspect of the movie, but everything else was great. Then I watched Obi-Wan chapters 1 and 2, and I really liked it, actually. I thought it was really, really great. I did a whole video on it, so you can watch that if you want. But in general, I think that the story is good. The first episode was wonderful. It was a 9 out of 10. Perfect. Really enjoyed the introspection, character-driven kind of idea. However, the second one was a little bit weaker, but it wasn't really that bad. And now thinking back on it, I do think that the Reva character is a little bit abrasive. Like, she's not like cool in the same way that something like Darth Maul is. Like, Darth Maul is very unhinged, but he still has like control. Reva is all very much uncontrolled, and I don't really like that. I think that doesn't really fit with how these characters are supposed to be. And I don't really have a problem with the character because we don't know their story yet, so I still am willing to give them some benefit of the doubt. But I don't really like the character that much so far, but I don't really hate them. I think they're okay. I think mostly the problem is how they interact with the other Inquisitors, so that's all there is to that. Then I watched Top Gun Maverick just 2 days ago, actually. It was awesome. I loved it. It was so cool. The action sequences were very much on par with modern style action sequences, if not better, because I'm pretty sure they did them for real, or like close enough to for real. I think that's cool enough. It's a huge step up from the first one. However, the story is more or less the same thing as the first one, plus an added element at the end. So I liked it a lot. I think it was really, really good. There really isn't much to complain about, and there is a lot to love about the movie. So I think that you guys should definitely check out Top Gun Maverick. If you like military action films. So I quite liked it. I thought it was really, really good. So yeah, that's it for what I watched. Now let's look at what I read. So let's start with the comic books, and there really is not too much to say about this right now because mostly I already talked about all of these in the check-in video, and I don't really want to rehash anything. So I read all of the free comic book day comic books that I had, and you guys can just go watch the other video for that. But other than that, the only other comic book that I read was Sweet Paprika Volume 9, sorry, or Issue 9, and I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I really like Sweet Paprika a lot. I think it's coming to a close here soon, and it's kind of bittersweet, but I do think that Mirka Andolfo has a lot more stuff to offer, so I'm looking forward to that for sure. So yeah, other than that, in terms of non-manga stuff that I read, I also finished reading Perry Rhodan, Volume 1, finally. It's a volume that has 2 different storylines in it. The first one is kind of like Novella 1 and then Novella 2. And this is the first volume and the first arc of the story. So there's 4 volumes in this arc total. And I quite liked it. Well, I quite liked 2 parts of the story. I didn't like the third part. However, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. And especially apparently with this type of story, that's kind of how it goes as well. So it's just what it is. I quite like the Perry Rhodan meets aliens part of the story. I quite like the Jason Bourne-esque Alan Merchant storyline, but I didn't really like the Sid mutant kid storyline, so I didn't really care for that one. But the other 2 were good. I've seen a lot of people say that these are a lot slower than they really could have gone with, and that kind of sucks. But I mean, it's fine. I don't really have an issue with the pace of the story, more so the fact that it bounces off so much. So yeah, that's it for that in terms of Perry Rhodan. Now let's get into all of the stuff that I read. A lot of it was digital, and then a lot of it was physical in the second half of the month. However, a lot of the physical stuff that I read, I won't be able to show you here today because I don't have it with me. I left it in my apartment where I'm going back tomorrow. However, I can't do that. I can't record this video and put it out the day I want to without having to do it here at my parents' house. So that's why I'm doing it here. So let's start with Cobra the Psycho Gun. That's the first thing I read, my second. I thought it was interesting. It was a pretty different look at manga. It felt more like a Western comic, or maybe actually more like a European comic. It did have this very like sensual, pulpy kind of science fiction type of feel to it. I thought it was good. But I didn't really love it, so I don't know if I'm gonna read the next volume, but the first one was free, so I didn't really have an issue with it. I thought it was quite good. Then I read Parasite Volume 1. Again, I liked it. I thought it was basically like Junji Ito wrote Venom, and that's more or less what it feels like, and I don't really have an issue with it, but I didn't really find it all that interesting at the end of the day. I think I've read other things that are much more interesting that are in the same vein, like Gantz or Yagan or Glypnir. These kind of things are very similar. And I find them to be more interesting. So I feel like Parasite doesn't work for me because it's an older title and I've already things that are in the same vein but better because they're more modern. And so they're much more easy to understand within my sensibilities, right? So that's it. And it's also basically just Venom but Japanese, and so I don't really find the whole story all that interesting because I've already seen it before a lot. So that's it with Parasite. Then I read Dr. Stone, the final saga, the last 30 or so chapters, and I gotta say I did like it. I think the ending was satisfying. It wasn't perfect, but it was as good as I could have seen it going with how rushed the ending felt. However, the ending rush wasn't really bad. It just felt like, okay, we're just wrapping it up and we have to get to this point. And they could have done it slower. They could have taken another 50, 70, 100 chapters to do so. But I feel like at this point, it was either time to let it go, or Inagaki wanted to go somewhere else, or Boichi wanted to work on something else. And so they just had to make it work as fast as they could. I don't really have a problem with it. I think that they managed to do it well. However, it's not as satisfying because, you know, some of the best parts of the earlier parts of Dr. Stone have to do with that slow build-up to the awesome, like, final achievement, right? Like, when they built the tank, it was cool because it took a lot of parts and a lot of effort to get to that, right? And I feel like the same amount of effort wasn't really reflected in the spacefaring aspect as there was to the tank, even though the spacefaring aspect was supposed to be the top climax of the story. So that's kind of my issue with it, but I don't really hate it. I think it was actually quite good. Then I read Zip Man Volumes 1 and 2. This is a complete series in 2 volumes, and I thought it was fun. It wasn't perfect, but it was okay. It was more or less the equivalent of a blockbuster action movie, but in a manga, and I don't really have a problem with that. I thought it was fun. I don't really have an issue with these stories that really aren't that deep or don't have that much to them beyond the fact that they're just supposed to be fun. And Zip Man definitely has this feel because it was axed or it was cut off or it was, you know, not able to go beyond the 2 volumes that it was given. So it didn't really feel like complete, but it also didn't really feel bad. It just kind of like was, and it was kind of a time waster, and I'm perfectly happy with that. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought it was okay, and I liked it. And then I read Heart Gear, all 29 episodes that are available, the first 3 volumes plus some extra chapters, which I'm pretty sure should have been already in a volume, but since the story has been on hiatus, I'm guessing that the company was waiting to see if they could continue with the story, or if the 4th volume would be the final one and they would have to add in some extra like kind of information to it to make it like the final definitive volume. And so I'm guessing that's why it's still open-ended, but the story should be coming back. Tataki Tsuyoshi did say recently, like 3 months ago, that he was coming back to the story, so I'm quite excited about that. But Heart Gear is awesome. It was probably one of the best manga that I read this month. It's probably going to be one of the best manga I read this year, so I'm quite happy with that. Then I read Crazy Food Truck Volume 1. It was a fun, kind of enjoyable food manga, action manga kind of thing, and I liked it a lot. It was cool. Really enjoyed it. I like the characters quite a bit, and I'm pretty happy with the purchase. Definitely looking forward to Volume 2, and definitely going to collect all 3 volumes of the story, so I'm quite happy waiting for them. So, yeah, then I read No Guns Life Volumes 1, 2, and 3. Again, this is another awesome sci-fi robot manga. And again, it's one that I really enjoyed. I didn't like it as much as Heart Gear or some of the stuff I read later in the month, but No Guns Life is cool. It's a detective noir cyberpunk kind of story with this very cool robotics element to it that I like a lot. I think it's really, really awesome. I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to buy more of it. I think it finishes in 12 volumes, so I'm a third of the way there. I'm quite happy with that, or a fourth of the way there. Definitely want to buy some more volumes of it here soon. Then on the 14th of May, I read Magus of the Library Volume 2, Masho Volume 6, and Witch Hat Atelier 2 and 3, and I quite like them. Magus of the Library is awesome. I like the art style. I like the story. I think it's really interesting how it's set up, because the first volume was a very like traditional classic introduction to a young protagonist. It has, you know, a kid. We get to see his life, his struggles, and then we get to see him be accepted by his people and his little village by the end of the first volume. And then the second volume is more or less a travel log as he goes through this journey to get to this place to take a test. And then I'm guessing that the third one is going to start, you know, kind of going through more of this travel log type of stuff. And I'm curious to see if this is actually based or structured similarly to some like Arabian style fantasy or Arabic style fantasy, I guess. I don't really know what the proper terminology is, but you know, it's a very classic historical fantasy type of storyline that has been very popular, or was very popular in the at some point in the Western kind of hemisphere. And I'm curious to see if it's based on something like that, or if it's just kind of its own thing, and it just happens to have a lot of similar story beats to, you know, things that we know. Asheville has been great, and Witch Hat Atelier continues to be wonderful. I definitely want to collect more of it. I don't know how many volumes of it there are so far. I think there's 10 of them available right now, so hopefully I can buy a few more of them this next month, and hopefully we'll collect all of them by the end of the year, so I can start anew with some new series next year. Then I read, sorry, let me get this out. To Love Rue, once I was here at my apartment, or at my parents' house, and I quite liked it. I really enjoyed it. I have some familiarity with the series, and I quite liked it. I had a lot of fun reading it, and I can't wait to buy more of it, but there really isn't too much to say. It's about this hot alien girl that lives with this boy, and it's a harem manga, and that's really all there is to it. Then I read Gundam The Origin, Volume 1. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't like the origin, or the original Gundam anime compilation movies all that much. I thought they were quite boring. However, this managed to actually be a lot more interesting than them, because it kind of changed a little bit of the story and focused a lot more on the battles, more so than, you know, Amuro's weird ass PTSD like screaming that was so common in the anime compilation videos, or anime compilation movies. So I quite like that. I thought it was really cool, and I can't wait to buy more of this. However, it's so expensive, so who knows when I'll get to buy another volume. This first one was given to me by one of my roommates, so I really appreciate it, and I'm really happy with the read. Then I focused on reading Alma, Volume 1, and then the next day I read Volume 2, 3, and 4. 3 and 4. I already did a review on this, but this is more or less another post-apocalyptic robot manga, and this one deals with this boy who happens to be designated as the zero of the robots. And so these robots that have kind of overthrown humanity decided that he does not have to die, and so they try to, anytime he encounters them, they die basically if they try to attack him. And now he turns out to be this powerful weapon for humans, and they try to go shut down all the robots by going to Japan, to this place called Alma, which is the central receptacle of knowledge for the robots. And if they can turn that off, they can turn off the robots everywhere. And it's a pretty interesting story. There's a huge plot twist near the end of the volume, or near the end of the 3rd and 4th volumes, that really changes the paradigm of the story a lot, and I like it a lot. I really did end up liking it by the end. However, I don't think it's going to be for everyone, so, you know, be aware of that. But it's not available in English yet, so, you know, most people that watch this video probably won't care about it, but I do think that it's interesting, so definitely check it out some way. And I thought it was cool. Then I read Space Brothers 1, 2, and 3. I read these digitally because there's no physical volumes of them, and I quite liked it. It reminded me of something like The Right Stuff, which is a show about Apollo missions on Disney Plus. I thought it was cool, and I really enjoyed it. However, it is a slow feeling story, so, you know, maybe not something that everyone's gonna like, but I found it to be quite interesting. Then I read Glypnir, Volumes 1, 2, and 3, and I already read the first 2, but I wanted to reread them so I could kind of get back to reading Volume 3, and I really enjoyed it. I think Glypnir is so cool, so interesting. It does have this very gritty, kind of dark, erotic kind of feel to it, but also has this very interesting kind of look at humanity and loneliness and the human condition and pain and stuff like that. So I really like it. I think it's very, very cool. It does kind of have this depth to it, this thematic element to it, even though it is very much a, hey, this is hot kind of veneer to it. And I like that a lot. I think it's cool. And yeah, then keeping up with the vaguely like hardcore kind of stuff, I went into something a little bit darker than that, which is Sunken Rock. This is a heavy-ass story, but it's so cool. I really like Boichi's artwork, and I think that his storytelling in these early volumes is quite good. I know that supposedly, you know, Sunken Rock gets bad at the end, but I don't really have any issues with that. I think that, you know, the journey is just as important as the ending, and maybe even more so than the ending. and I don't really mind if the ending is not as good, because I quite like these early volumes and I don't have an issue with them. And yeah, I quite like it. Sunken Rock is very badass. It's a Yakuza manga, and it definitely goes into the, you know, horrible things that Yakuza can do, or that gangs can do, and it's pretty interesting. I like it a lot. The art style is also really awesome. However, it is slightly older than some of the other Boichi artwork that you might see online, so be aware of that, because sometimes his artwork, it doesn't look as good as you would think Boichi's artwork looks. But yeah. Then I jumped all in on reading Origin. Not all of it, but I did. Well, I did read all of it by the end of the month, but I did kind of read some of this and then read some other stuff as well. So here's Origin. Let me show you all of the volumes separately. And Origin is this robot manga. It's by Boichi as well, as you guys can probably tell. This is very much clearly Boichi's artwork, and it's about this robot called Origin that wants to be blending into humanity. He wants to live like his creator, his father, told him, which is to live properly, or to live well. In Spanish, it's actually to live as it is meant to be, or to live as you're supposed to, or something like that. And so he's kind of trying to figure out what this means. And along the way, he realizes that he has siblings that are also living their lives, and they're actually not trying to blend in. They're not really following his father's edict. And so he fights them and realizes that one of them has developed consciousness, and so he has to battle them. And what happens is this really badass action manga series that focuses on this idea of robots. It's very similar to iRobot or something like that. Well, I guess iRobot is a little bit more pensive. This is a little bit more combative. But it actually ends up being a very cool story. The ending is going to be hit or miss for a lot of people. For me, it was a hit. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. I didn't really have any major issues with it, so I don't have any problems with it. I think that it finishes off in a very classic sci-fi story kind of way, which is it gets so complex that it basically looks like magic. And that's kind of what happens when you're dealing with like higher level kind of things, you know, higher dimensional kind of situations and stuff like that. And these robots being able to exist and calculate things at, you know, rates that humans can't even comprehend, makes sense that they would kind of reach these heights, right? So it's very cool. I really liked it. I like the art style a lot. And the story was really good. The first half is kind of slice of lifey, because it is about this character that is trying to fit in, but also trying to fight his siblings. And then it gets more action heavy and more badass, more sci-fi, Terminator style near the end, and I like it a lot. I think it's really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. I think Boichi is one of my favorite mangaka right now, and it might be recency bias, but I really like all of his work, so I definitely want to collect all of them at some point, and I'm quite happy with what I've read from him so far. So yeah, then I read Kingdom Volumes 1, 2, and 3, and it's getting good, actually. So the first volume wasn't really perfect for me. I didn't really feel that attached to it, but by the end of the third volume, I really understand why everyone likes it, and I think it has to do with this character here, Zhang, which is the king of China, or the king of the Qin kingdom, or the Qin kingdom. I don't know how to say it, but it's Qin, and he has this dream to unite all of China into this single country, so that everyone can stop fighting, and so that this horror that it happens so often can end. And he gathers forces, and he gets these people from the mountains to help him, and it's very, very badass. And right now they're in the process of taking back his kingdom, because he was dethroned, and I'm really happy with where the story is going, and I really like it. I definitely want to buy volumes 4 and 5 for sure. I'm really looking forward to them. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading more Kingdom. It's really, really cool. So yeah, then this is when I start reading Perry Roden, or when I finish reading Perry Roden, but I already talked about it, so there's no point. So then I jumped into reading Adam, the beginning. This is coming to English, or to the English market here in a few months, I think in September, if I remember correctly. Titan Comics or Titan Books, Titan Manga, I don't know, is going to be releasing it alongside Kamen Rider Kuga, so that's pretty interesting. But Adam is a retelling, reimagining / prequel to Astro Boy, and so it's really interesting. You get to follow the story as Tenma and Ochinamizu work on developing their Bugenstein system, their kind of artificial intelligence system, and they attach it to this robot A106, who is the Atom in the story, as far as I know. And you get to see this robot start to develop some sort of consciousness and do things that are unexpected. And as he, you know, is outclassed by the robots, they start creating another one, which is Uran here, which I think is actually a character from, directly from Astro Boy. So I think it's his sister. And then we get to see them fight in these robot battles, and it's very cool. It has this very interesting balance between robot on robot fighting, like Real Steel or something like that, while also having this interesting kind of introspective look at what it means to build robots and what it means to create consciousness and what it means to be alive and all of this type of stuff. And I like it a lot. This is the type of sci-fi that I really enjoy. The art style is also really, really cool. And this very interesting character design and a lot of cool action sequences. Have very cool action kind of layouts and blocking, and everything looks really, really cool. And I like it a lot. I think it's really cool and very, very interesting. So yeah, that's all I've read this month. I still have a little bit of the day left, so I think that I'll probably end up being able to read a bit more. But so far, I didn't manage to completely finish my TBR. So let me show you what I tried to read that I didn't get to. So first, Shadow Rising, I didn't touch this book at all. Again, I suck at this, I know, but it's just how it goes. So maybe I should just stop putting it on my TBRs if I'm not gonna read it. I don't know. Then I also didn't touch Saga of Tanya the Evil at all, which is a shame because I didn't want to try to finish it before the end of June so that I could sell it if I wanted to sell it, or keep it if I wanted to keep it, because at the end of the third month of the second quarter, I do want to make another, you know, unhaul video, and I probably will end up doing it around the halfway mark of the month instead, because I have to come back to my house at the end of the month, and I'm going to be out of town in July, so I want to have some cash for when I go on my trip to Mexico. So I probably am going to end up doing the unhaul part of the video earlier than expected, but it'll still kind of be the end of the quarter haul, so unhaul video. So yeah, then I didn't manage to get through more of Red Rising. I don't know why. I had this kind of reading slump in the middle of the month, and I just kind of stopped reading for about a week. I managed to push through a little bit of manga, but that's different because it's so much easier to read manga since it's mostly looking at pictures, whereas this is mostly looking at words, and so it's kind of daunting to look at a full page and not that you don't want to read. So yeah, and I also didn't touch Light of the Jedi at all. I was focused on other Star Wars things this month because it was really hype about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and so I watched, you know, some other Star Wars stuff like Revenge of the Sith, which was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's in terms of the novels that I didn't read. Everything on my manga reading list was mostly finished. I didn't get to Gravity Boys. I moved them on to the next month. And I did the same thing with Barrage and Tokyo Shinobi Squad because I realized that it was a lot and I didn't really need to deal with it. And the problem is that it didn't really take into account the fact that when I was home, I wasn't really going to not be doing anything because my parents were both working and my sister's in an internship right now, and I'm the only one that has free time. So I ended up being the one that had to cook for everyone and stuff like that. And so I ended up having less time than I thought I would be having. And so that's kind of what caused me to end up not having all of the time to read all of these titles. The other things that I didn't get to read this month were Yagan. So there really isn't too much to say about that, but I was going to reread the first two volumes and continue with number 3 and 4. And I already bought 4 and 5, so I really shouldn't be doing that. But with these titles that are available in Spanish and not available in English, I'm a little bit more lenient in terms of like when I buy things or when I stop buying them. So I'm okay with buying a bit more than I really should, because at the end of the day, I know I'm going to read them because I want to make videos on things that are not available in English, because I think it's important to kind of have this exposure to other manga that isn't available in the country that, you know, we are. And so I'm okay with stuff like that. So I don't really have a problem with buying more volumes of a series ahead of time before I know that I really like them or not. So yeah, I don't know. That's all I have to say about the manga that I read and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, I this was a long, sorry, I'm trying to make sure that this doesn't fall over. This was a long month. I did a lot of reading. I'm pretty happy with all of the stuff that I read, and I hope you guys are happy with the video. And yeah, there's not much to say. So thank you guys very much once again, and see you guys later.